So you want to work in game development. I'm going to talk a little bit about, what I know and my experience about this. I think the thing I know most about is programmers. If you want to work as a game programmer, if you want to program games, I would say, if you have a job programming at a regular company, working on some of the application that's even like vaguely related to games, and you have a reasonably good work history, there's a very good chance you just apply and you can get a job working in games. There's not that high a bar of entry. If you're coming out of college and you have a degree, I do see people with the game development degrees, and some of those guys do get hired. So people do get hired just with that. And also I see people they come out of college. What I'm not so crazy about myself is you see some guy, he comes out of college and he took all his classes, he knows all this stuff, but he has never really done any, any kind of game programming or independent projects on his own. And I'm not so crazy with that kind of hire, but those guys can get hired too. I think if you send out enough resumes. But I would suggest, if you want to work in games, it's good to have some hobby projects. I think, especially if you're a programmer, and even if it looks horrible or if you're just making your own art, I think it shows a little bit of initiative of just that you're interested in the field. I think, if you could do it on your own, then you can do it for a living, basically. For artists, I'm not an artist. I only see this indirectly. I would say, I think the first thing that people need to know is that working on art in games is a real job. And, if majoring in art, if you're actually good at it, it's not a wasted major. It's a total career path, don't underestimate the art. I see plenty of people earning middle class income as artists. It's a totally valid path. I would say, this is just my sort of take on it. If you're in high school and you're the best artist in your high school, you can get hired as an artist as an adult, if you have those basic skills. I mean, to me, it does seem sort of like magic. Some people just have they have the motivation to put the time into it and make it look really good. For artists, it's about the portfolio. If your portfolio looks good, then and the art department likes what they see in your portfolio, you can get hired. But you have to have, you got to put in the time and make that portfolio look good. And if you don't have that, you're never going to get hired. Is kind of how it works. But those are good. If you're good. And I think the artists who are good at this, they know. So, I wouldn't discourage anybody from pursuing a game as an artist and as a game career as an artist. For music and sound, in games, there are many fewer jobs for music and sound than there are for artists. There are guys, who make a living making sounds and making music for games. But though, I think artists, if you're really good and you kind of send out resumes, you can sort of have a normal career path. For music and sound people have to hustle a little more, and you have to, I don't know how they get hired, but there are guys who do get hired for this. But there's a lot of competition for these spots. So, and oftentimes, I know you go to the sound department, and those guys will they'll be part of their band or something like that. You know what I mean? They have the full music career, and the game sound effects is kind of their day job sort of thing. So it's possible, but it's a tougher road to do music and sound for games, just starting from scratch. I think for design is pretty interesting. I've been out of design a while. What's happening recently is there's a lot of focus on the mathematical aspect of this. A lot of people are looking at just how sort of what kind of measurements and stats they have to do to make games more fun, and it's kind of become more about data and that sort of thing. especially in slot machines. I see a lot of guys are actually, and also slot machine design is quite a. It's a thing you can totally make money at if you get good at it. Like there are some guys who do quite well at this, and what they are doing is they're basically they're you know they want to make slot machines that pay out, but the slot machine still has to make money. But they want to create that sensation of the game being fun, and it has to do with something they talk about called volatility and things like that. So, and that's not really. I'm kind of indirectly involved in that, but I'm not. That's not my thing. I'm just a straight programmer myself. I do see it like, there's another trend I've seen in game companies lately too. And like, there'll be all these theater people hired in game companies. And I don't know quite sure what their story is, to be honest. It's like, and you have the company meeting and it's like, they'll be putting on their little plays and stuff. And they'll be talking about like, they're kind of like, they tried to get in a job at like Warner Brothers and now they're at some game company, and they sort of fall out of this. Like they didn't quite make it in Hollywood. They come into games. And I don't know. They're like alien to me. They're sort of like, I think they hire each other. They're sort of like, they want to be pals and they're all about the networking and that kind of stuff. But that's not me. I don't know how they're an alien species to me. They're they like function on a different level. There's quite a few jobs in testing. Like if you just want to work in games at all, and even if you just play games, and also like people do specialize in QA actually. So there's a whole field of QA for just for software and QA for games. And if people focus on that, you can totally get hired in that. I think the QA people, like in terms of money, you're never going to get to like as much as programmers make, but you can have a decent living working QA. There's also there's a lot of jobs now with customer support and that kind of thing, where basically kind of a large mobile games have like just there's a lot of tickets come in. If you're playing a large mobile game and you're spending you bought something, you bought some special item on a mobile game and something glitched and you never got it, and you send an email and complain about that. Pretty much, person's gonna answer that. I think that there's a system that will take your request and get it to a person, and there are going to be people on that side, and there's a whole hierarchy of people who are managing that and routing that work to individual people. I think some of that, I'm seeing a trend where some of that work is going overseas. So I'm not sure what the future of that is, but there's definitely jobs of that. Also, a lot of games, you have high profile players, and a lot of it is, customer support with them. So sometimes that is also a position that people are doing. I would say, what kind of my thinking is like, if what you want to do is make games, what I would do is I would just make a game. It's much easier now than it was in old days. You could download Unity and just take the sample project and start moving stuff around, and just make a game. If you can sit in your house, instead of screwing with YouTube or with with Facebook or Twitter, so you can turn off all that stuff and make a game from scratch. I think there's a very good chance you could get hired to do this. This is not Hollywood. Game programming is not Hollywood, where there's like, there's this massive, ocean of people all trying to break in. It's much more just like getting a regular job, and we're looking for people who could just, be responsible and do that job and have reasonable credentials. And if that's you, and you can get to a point where you have some skill that's required, the barrier to entry is not super great. So I would encourage people who are, are wondering about what they want to do with their life, that it's something to consider. It absolutely is. And that is all. Thank you very much.